All right. Good morning, everybody. For the welcome to the January meeting of the Sorrel Oversight Committee. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Jackie, would you do a roll call, please?
I will. Good morning. Lorraine Koss. Here. Charles Venuto.
Here.
Vinnie Toronto.
Here.
Don Dice.
Here.
John Windsor.
Here.
Terry Casto is not here. Bobby Putnam.
Here.
Laura Lee Thompson is not here. Stephanie Ely is here on the phone.
Here.
Kimberly Newton. I think she's here on the phone. Todd Swingle is not here. Kurt Smith.
Present.
Barbara Wall-Scanlon. Here. And Eric Manes.
Here.
Okay, we do have an in-person quorum.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is look for a motion to approve the virtual votes for those on the phone who will be voting today.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion of the committee? Any public comment? All right, we'll go ahead and make that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Welcome officially to the call, virtual callers. And so again, as we do have in-person and on-call or virtual callers, please make sure your mic is on when you're talking, just so that way those that are on the call will be able to hear.
Should we mute it now?
Logan said there shouldn't be feedback,
Okay.
but if you want to do that, you can. But just make sure it's on when you speak so those at home can hear your words of brilliance. And with that, speaking of words of brilliance, we'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve the agenda. Is there one?
So moved. Oh,
And second.
All right. Any discussion of the committee? Any public comment? All right, we'll go ahead and vote on the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Now we'll look for another motion to approve the minutes. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? Any public comment on the minutes? I know you all read it. All right, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Here we go. Virginia, good morning. Terry, good morning.
Yes. Good morning. It's been a busy month. Thanks to all of the committee members who reviewed the draft plan that we sent out and sent edits. We, with the help of our consultant, Marcy Frick, have been through those comments and incorporated those into the draft that was a part of this packet. And then, as you know, we have the terms are ending in February, and so we received 19 applications for new people to serve on the committee, including a few existing folks who were looking to move up from alternates to voting member seats. Those were transmitted to the League of Cities to select who they wanted to fill their positions, and I just got those results, so I'll share those with you. They have asked that Kurt Smith be promoted to their voting member seat for Economics and Finance, and Kimberly Newton be promoted for their voting member seat on Lagoon Education Outreach Advocacy. And then Dick Bankhead be their voting member for the new Lagoon Commerce field of expertise. and Nick Sanzoni for their science alternate position. So I'm taking those recommendations and the remaining applicant pool to the county commission. I've submitted an agenda request for the end of this month, January 28th, for the board to make their selections and confirm the League of Cities. So hopefully we will have appointments all nailed down here shortly. Project number 98 completed, Woodland Business Center this month, and then project 99, the city of Titusville, Osprey lateral smoke testing, and then project 100, the city of Rockledge flow equalization basin wastewater treatment upgrade. So we've hit that 100 mark, which we'll talk about some more in a few minutes. For quick connects to sewer, 11 more completed. For septic upgrades, 8 more completed. Some really amazing news out there on the oyster front. After 1 month after installation at the site that's just north of Turkey, or just south of the mouth of Turkey Creek, UCF counted 2,345 oysters per square meter on average. So just amazing recruitment at that brand new site. Meanwhile, the county did some 6-month monitoring at Hog Point in Gabions, and those exceeded our target of 100 live oysters per square meter. It was 127. So that's also really great. It's just not as amazing as 2,300. So, and one more derelict vessel removed. I know we still got a lot of hurricane-related vessels out there that the state is working on. We completed one video, which you'll get to see later today. Staff has been busy working on federal and state legislative funding requests, so we'll have 2 federal requests for a total of $5 million. We've submitted 7 state requests for a total of $12.6 million. So we're looking for champions for those requests, and we'll follow those through the process. Then South Central C, septic to sewer, we now have 144 of the 152 homes connected, and that includes all of the homes where we have groundwater wells. So we will be able to see the impact of that project on improved groundwater conditions. Leaping down to stormwater projects, Basin 71, Flounder, we have the notice to proceed issued for construction. West Arlington, which is Basin 1304, we've been procuring the construction materials for that project to get underway. Pioneer Road, the construction contract has been awarded, so lots of exciting stormwater projects breaking ground. O'Galley muck dredging, that is, back out on the street, and if all goes to plan, the bid opening is scheduled for next week on January 21st. Then the Titusville Causeway Multi-Trophic Restoration and Living Shoreline Resiliency Project. Your progress report says 151 structures have been placed. As of this morning, it's 216 structures have been placed. So if you're in the Titusville area and have a few minutes to drive across the Max Brewer Causeway, it's a very visible project, and it's great to see it taking form out there. It's worth a quick little drive across the causeway. And page 2, this weekend I was able to attend and speak at a dedication ceremony. The Space Coast chapter of Surfrider installed 2 buffer gardens as demonstration projects in Melbourne's Ballard Park, and Vinnie Toronto was there, and Commissioner Thad Altman also spoke. It was a really nice event, and the rain stopped just in time for the ceremony. So those are really nice gardens for people to see what you can do to reduce the amount of pollution running off our shorelines and into the lagoon, and, full of native plants that require, that just grow here naturally and don't require a lot of chemical soup. And then for upcoming events, Orca always has their lecture series, but I wanted to talk about the February 1st celebration of completion of our 100th project. Has everybody got the?
I've got them right here.
Okay. Can somebody pass those out? Okay. So we're planning a celebration event. Back in 2014, everybody held hands across multiple causeways to bring attention to the plight of the lagoon and say, let's fix it. So here, to celebrate 100 completed projects, we thought we need to do that again. We need to hold hands across the lagoon, but instead of saying, hey, we need to fix it, we need to actually let people be a part of fixing it. And so we're partnering with both Todd Osborne and Super Clam work and Brevard Zoo and their clam work, and we're going to give everybody a cup of little clams and line everybody up across the causeway and do a big release. And we specifically picked the Titusville Causeway because that is where clams have been doing relatively well. And so we think it's going to be a great place for that event. And interestingly, Titusville has also, of all the municipalities, they've completed the most projects within that 100. So it's really fitting that we take the celebration to the north end of the county. And then Harbor Branch, February 20th and 21st, Harbor Branch is having their Indian River Lagoon Symposium. It conflicts with the COC meeting, but that's always a great and informative event. And I know we are on the agenda for Friday, so Anthony will be presenting on our behalf and miss the meeting here, but we wanted to be a part of that event. And that's my report, Chair.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments from the committee? Lorraine?
Yeah, Virginia, I wanted to ask, do you have the figures for where we stand on the lateral connections, the quick connections, the quick connects?
So,
What dollars do we have remaining? What is the opportunity there?
okay. Yeah, we do have, so there's 412 completed to date. There are 518 agreements that have been executed. We have grant funding remaining to continue to fund those regardless of the load estimate. And we continue to apply for more grant funding to try to prevent us from running out. We are waiting to hear about the water quality grants from the last cycle. The last I heard from Tallahassee was they were hoping those would be announced in February-ish,
Okay.
maybe.
So when you say regardless of load estimate, so these are not, this isn't like the septic to sewer where you have so many yards from the lagoon, but if you're within the basin and there is sewer available, those grants are available for you,
Yes.
regardless of where you are within the basin.
Yes, and Terry has pulled the number, so the funding remaining is okay, we have spent $2,819,662 swirl dollars, plus grants on top of that. And the swirl funds remaining for that program are $15,883,906.
Okay.
And those are divided between the between the sublagoons, but there's funding in each sublagoon.
Okay. The division, so there's a certain amount available to each division.
Correct.
Okay. And we could probably break that down and figure out what that is for each.
She just had it if you
Oh, okay.
wanted.
Okay, great.
Charles?
Yeah, I'd just like to add as far as upcoming events, this coming week is the Space Coast Birding and Wildlife Festival up in Cape Canaveral. I think all the field trips are sold out, but the exhibit hall will be open. There's several lectures, and of course, there's a correlation between the lagoon health and the number of species that we have here. So I'd encourage folks to check that out. And the Florida Oceanographic Lecture Series starts next Tuesday. And if you've never listened to those, you can, Zoom the meetings, you can go live, or you can watch recordings, but they usually talk about lagoon issues, or frequently do, or water quality, and I think everybody would be interested in those.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charles. Any other questions or comments from the committee or those on the phone? Okay, I have just one, Virginia, the groundwater monitoring. When do we expect to start seeing results from that?
So we have multiple wells in the community, and we've already seen improvement in some of the wells for those properties that went earlier. And in fact, you can sort of see a signal beginning even before those homes, just because of their neighbors connecting. So, as time goes by, the signal becomes stronger. I'm not sure, how long it will be before statistically it's significant.
Okay.
But, when you look at the squiggly
Trend
line
lines.
of concentrations, you can just see it going down, so.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Well, Laura Lee, good morning.
What kind of vendors are we going to have at the clams across the lagoon? Is it open to any environmental organization, or do you have select vendors that you've got?
We've been recruiting.
Yeah, we've sent it out to all the partners that were with the our programs, all the cities, nonprofits. We also tried to pull up any other exhibitors we could think of. So put out, Lagoon Loyal businesses. We sent it out to some of the kayak groups, things like that, trying to get anyone and everyone. So it is open. If someone wants to apply, they can just email us at the IRL project at email, and then irlproject@brevardfl.gov. And we can get a vendor form out to them.
And we would love for them to join us.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Yes, Eric.
Do we foresee the, any of these oyster projects eventually having like commercial seafood value in the future or anything like that to amplify some of our side benefits of these projects, I guess?
Yeah, so the water quality conditions, where most of the oysters are not suitable for harvesting.
And they're still surviving good?
Yeah, so it's the pathogens that are the issue. Yeah, but they survive that, right? That's not a problem to them. So, while the specific sites that we've been restoring, the purpose of that, right, is not for harvest. I mean, what the recruitment that we're seeing here demonstrates that we've got really successful reproductive effort in the lagoon. And so, in areas where there are those villagers in the water column, right, we're basically now habitat limited. So, good progress.
All right. Okay, Virginia, Terry, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and move on to the monthly revenue graph and financial statements from Lori. Good morning, Lori.
Okay. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So we have received $4.2 million for October collections, and the total revenue from conception is $430 million. For the financial statement of the anticipated $504 million in revenue, by the end of the fiscal year. The actuals reached so far is 8.3 million. For the expenditures this fiscal year, the total assigned for the project and programs is 83 million, and the actual spent is 2.7 million. Is there any questions?
Anybody have any questions? At home, listeners? Okay.
Thank you.
Lori, thank you so much. All right, next we'll go to our quarterly outreach report with Brandon. Good morning, Brandon.
Morning. All right, so this is the report for the third quarter of last year. As a reminder, when we first set this up, we decided we would do it the month after the regular quarterly reports, which would have been December, but because we didn't meet then, it got pushed off to this month. When we set up that calendar too, we really didn't consider that it also ends up landing on the month of June when we're gone, so it gets pushed out a month there. So we had discussed, so that you're not getting this information so far out, maybe doing it at the same time that we do the regular quarterly report. Because we determined it's not that long of a report to go through, so we can probably squeeze it into those. So if you guys are okay with that, you'll be hearing from me again next month when we do the regular quarterly reports. Yep. And so this is July through September of last year. And our website, you can just, like, if you recall back at the beginning of the year when we talked, they were switching over analytics. So this is really the first time we're getting a good comparison with the full set of months. So last month we had partial for like only 2 months of data to compare to. So this will be the full 3 months and 3 months to see the difference. The page views, pretty much steady, but the total site users, while it shows that it's down, that is showing that, we are still we're getting people to return. So we're getting people to come back and view that page multiple times, even though this number of individual site users was down. And then the Lagoon Loyal website, see it's a slightly higher number there of people visiting that. And we believe we had an uptick kind of in that with the campaigns we pushed in August. And so those were those community campaigns, as well as July and August we had the individual contribution campaigns where we'll talk about in a little bit at the end here. And then our Facebook pages continue to do well. We did see a decrease across the board, but that is not a general decrease. It's still good numbers compared to our average. We just had a huge spike the previous quarter, so we had like a 300% increase the previous quarter, so going down 24% is not that big of a concern. And our reach on there, with the top posts were our oyster homecoming. So the zoo does their event every year where all the oyster gardeners bring their oysters back in. So that was our top post. And then second was one of our septic posts on how an aerobic system or advanced treatment system works. Then Lagoon Loyal. We saw a large increase in the reach there, and they were promoting it a little heavier with the campaigns that we were running for those action items, those competitions with the community. So we would hope to see a slightly larger reach with that. The engagement did go down as far as people commenting and reacting on there, but the number of clicks to go through to our website increased. So even if they weren't actively participating on the page, they were going to the Lagoon Loyal website to then look at more information and sign up. So that's a good thing. And the top ones there dealt with those campaigns. So we had the one that announced the winners from the individual pledge for prizes that individuals pledged to do Lagoon Loyal Actions, and we're giving away kayak and paddleboard trips. And then the other one was the announcement of the 3 neighborhoods that won the Lagoon Loyal competition as far as most community actions done. The Sorrel Instagram actually went up quite a bit this last time, so you'll see we had a 300% increase, which is great. Our Facebook usually performs better than the Instagram page, so we're happy to see more people getting involved on our Instagram. And a bunch of new followers as well. And then the top posts there were, again, another one of our septic, which happened to be one of the month's topics we were focusing on. So each month we have a different topic of pollution or other areas of the lagoon that we focus on. So this one was more explaining how a traditional septic system works and the pollution that comes out of it. And then just one of our posts on the National Estuaries Week, just announcing it, were our top performing posts there. Lagoon Loyal, they did have a decrease in their Instagram. I'm not sure why, what accounted for that, but we did see a decrease in the reach. There was one of the months where they, were transitioning over in our contracts between the two, so there was a decrease in the number of posts that were going out, some of those. And their top posts were congratulating our winners again, and then also looking at irrigation and water use on that. One of the little quizzes, they'll put out quiz questions just to try to get interactions and engagement. Then our monthly newsletters, the Sorrel newsletter that gives all the information on progress and updates and volunteer events. Still pretty steady with that. The numbers are increasing on the people subscribing, so our reach keeps increasing. Open rate, I'm not too concerned that it went down. It's just a small percentage. It fluctuates up and down constantly within about 5%. And our HAB newsletter, we did see a decrease for the first time in people, some people signing off from that. We've always been increasing in numbers on people subscribing. We had a few people unsubscribing from it this time, so that equates for that slightly dip in the reach out there.
Brandon Lorraine has
Brandon,
it.
can you remind us, HAB, what does that stand for?
Oh, I'm sorry, the harmful algal blooms. So harmful algal bloom newsletter. And that's the one we put out on a weekly basis, just giving a general idea of what the blooms are doing out in the lagoon. So it'll highlight what areas of the lagoon we might see increases, decreases, or where it's staying steady. And that uses the satellites. Yep.
Brandon, do you know, is there an option to go from weekly to monthly? Like usually when people, it's that like retention department, when you call and you want to cancel your cable, and they're like, hold on, we're going to send you to somebody. And they're like, you sure you really want to leave? And so I didn't know if there was an option to lessen the number of times. Maybe people are just getting too much email. But it's a good way, someone may want to stay in the know.
Yeah, I mean, we only saw a decrease of like 3 people unsubscribing, so it's not a concern at this
Just might be a
point,
good
but
option down the road to give people the ability on how often they want to get the email.
Yeah. Yeah, since we put those reports together on a weekly basis, we'd then have to get a monthly report put together. So asking the consultant to do an extra report that wasn't already done.
And our intent with that was to provide, real-time information to users out there on the water. Where are the blooms, where's the clear water, in terms of where you want to go or don't want to go. And so, getting a report a month later
Yeah,
is
wouldn't
not.
meet its purpose.
Right. So,
Cool.
and the data is available on the website. So if they want to go look at historical information, that is there.
Okay, great.
All right. And then the Lagoon Loyal also sends out monthly email newsletters to their members. And we did see an increase in the reach there with a lot of new people signing up because of those new campaigns we were pushing. And so they had more people signing up to be Lagoon Loyal members. And we were still pushing the fertilizer videos, so that was the peak time when we were pushing those videos for the fertilizer ban. So we switched from the general fertilizer usage videos to just showing the fertilizer ban video and pushing those on Hulu, YouTube, and Facebook. So the Hulu impressions, we pretty much pay for a steady number of impressions, so you're not going to see much change in that. They fluctuate by a few each month, but not much. And then YouTube, our views, again, were down, kind of like the Facebook, but increased in the number of clicks. So while we didn't have as many people watching the video for long enough to get that view count, we did have more people clicking over and trying to find more information on fertilizer bans on our Lagoon Loyal page. So can't be angry with that one. And Facebook, we saw a large increase, and again, due to pushing those videos, I think, more during the fertilizer ban period. We also started for the first time this year our radio spots. So we had fertilizer spots talking about the ban airing on Light Rock 99.3 and also on WMMB, which is AM and FM. And again, those are paid for by, we pay for a number of impressions, so that's going to be kind of a standard number. But when we bought those impressions, they also threw in some PSAs for free, so added on to the number that we paid for. So you'll see we, got just as many, if not in some cases more impressions that they gave us through the PSAs, the free announcements. So we thank them for that. And then our septic videos, again, these are going to be very steady on Hulu typically. But we did see an increase in this one only because the Hulu ads from the previous quarter were only 2 months of ads that were run, and then this was a full 3 months. So it showed a large increase, but that's only because of the time difference between what they were, we were recording it. And YouTube, our views and clicks went up, so we're happy about that. And also on Facebook, a lot of people, I guess, interested in those septic videos and what to do to help maintain your septic system. And then those campaigns we talked about before, those community campaigns. So we had one where people took pledges, and we had on those Facebook and Instagram ads, 447 people who clicked through to the Lagoon Loyal website to then learn more about Lagoon Loyal, and 52 of those ended up taking the pledge to then help the lagoon. And then the other campaign was the community campaign, trying to see which communities in the lagoon area could do the most actions during the month of August. So we had 58 people sign up their community to be involved in that particular campaign, and totaling 320 different actions throughout those communities. And then if anyone wants to sign up for our newsletter, here's again just a little reminder, and so they can go either email us to get more information, and they can always scan these QR codes if they're watching at home to sign up for our newsletter or become Lagoon Loyal.
Okay.
Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? All right. I think, Brandon, what I'd like to do is maybe we can work in some long-term graphs or charts with this information, And that way, if you are going to be presenting this at the same time that the quarter, maybe we talk about outliers at the meeting, but not go through everything. It may just help make the information more impactful. And then, of course, seasonality. You know, when you've got Christmas season, people are clicking, probably not going to click that much on
Yeah.
Lagoon stuff. You know, they're clicking on Birkenstocks or iWatches or something. So I think, having a long-term chart that shows the seasonality, I think will really help us dive into the data.
And we can do that. And since we only just started recording this
Yeah, I think that's.
This year.
I think it's great.
or last year.
I mean, this is data that naturally servers collect as they send out information, so there's no additional work.
Yeah.
You know, collecting the data. Great. Anybody have any other questions or comments? Callers? Bobby, please.
How isolated can we get with some of that data? Like, I would just be curious if this was more like, more of the views come dominantly from one part of the county or not.
So when you look at the analytics on some of the social media platforms, they'll tell us what areas they're coming from. I don't know if they break it, I can't remember if they break down to city level. I know they'll tell you, you know, so many from these states or, you know, but I'd have to delve into that analytics, see how far we can get to see how close it
Even
is.
if we could get like just a couple regional spots in the county to see.
Yeah, they do give other demographics like age and gender, things like that, and break it down further that way. But I'll have to look and see how specific we can get
Yeah.
on the areas.
Good question, Bobby. Yeah, I think those demographics would help us then target our communications. So
Yeah.
any data we can get.
Well, and it could go to the regional or the seasonal as well.
For sure.
Like, was it Palm Bay people looking because they started talking about their mandates? Or was it, you know, another event or not? Might
Yeah.
be, yeah.
Well, I think it shows opportunity too, right? Like if there's an area geographically where we're not getting much, then maybe we can target
Yes.
some of our communications to that area with a project in that area.
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff. I love data. Raise your hand if you like data. All right, Brandon, thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. All right, so now we'll go into our other reports and special presentations. We have a video, Lagoon Loyal Indian River City Community Pollinator Garden.
Yeah,
It's a
so this-
mouthful, and we like it.
Yeah, this is that community campaign that we talked about. So we had 3 different communities we selected out of those, 50-some communities that participated. And we have 2 of those garden installations in place. So you'll be seeing the video for the other one next month. We're just working on the editing for that one right now. And we are set to go out and film the 3rd and final one next week in Rockledge.
Okay, great. Might be a spoiler alert, but where is Indian River City?
This is in Titusville.
Oh, Laura Lee, thank you. I need to come up and visit more often. All right.
All right, so we'll let Logan go ahead and roll that. So the Lagoon Loyal program is a program we've been doing for many years now to try to get engagement with the community and get people to do actions that help the lagoon in their own home. So as part of it this year, we decided to have a neighborhood competition and get different sections of the community involved and see how many actions that they could do in a month. We had 58 different communities that participated, and together they completed 320 different lagoon saving actions throughout that month. So we selected the top 3 neighborhoods who completed the most actions, and we offered them a garden feature to be put in or around their community. So one of the top 3 communities was Indian River City in Titusville, and they selected Titusville Library as the location to put in a pollinator garden.
Today we're working on a native pollinator garden at the Titusville Public Library. Pollinating butterflies, bees, habitats for bunny rabbits. You know, the native plants are what they've called home for thousands of years, so they recognize them and they're drawn to them. We have a variety of plants that bring them in. We have kuntis that bring in an endangered butterfly. Lots of flowers. We have some goldenrod. It's a combination. What you want to have is not a monoculture, but you want to have a lot of different things to bring in all those different things. That's the beauty of having a pollinator garden, is the diversity of the species that's in it. Using Florida native plants is a great idea because it reduces the irrigation that it's needed. It also reduces fertilizer and runoff, which helps the lagoon. It's a model so people can see that there are alternatives to the current landscapes that they have, and they are beautiful and they are functional and they're great for the community.
We're very excited to see all the engagement that happened with this campaign, and we're happy to see that they chose an area that everyone in the city can actually enjoy the benefit of their community garden.
My motto in life is giving back. I was a teacher at Melbourne High School, so this just extends that. I was mentoring, students and helping students and doing things like that, and now I do kind of do the same thing for the wildlife around here and the environment around here, because we're all stewards of our environment, of our community, and that's what it's about.
We had a lot of great engagement with this campaign, and we'd like to see more residents getting involved. Visit lagoonloyal.com to learn tips and tricks that you can do to help the environment and our lagoon. So a shout out to Eric on that. He's very knowledgeable and did all of that in one take.
Wow. One take, Eric. I like it. All right. Is there another community competition scheduled? Is there a traveling trophy? We need to
Traveling trophy.
we need to get on this. There's
Yeah.
320 community actions.
Yeah, so we will discuss with our new consultant, see how we can continue that program. It seemed to be popular with the residents.
Yeah, I think the annual Lagoon Community Champion Award and like a big old trophy traveling, I don't know. Sounds like fun to me. All right, any questions or comments from the committee on the video? All right, fantastic video. Is that up on our YouTube page already?
It will be. Yeah.
Okay, great. Brandon, thank you so much. All right, we will go ahead and move down to new business, which is why everybody came today. We've got Marcy coming and giving us our, we'll take a look at the new draft to the Save Our Indian River Lagoon Project Plan 2025.
Oops. Yeah. And before Marcy gets started, I usually do a little primer on how we projected the revenue growth for the 10-year tax, and then what's going on with construction cost inflation and how that's impacting the projects that remain. So, inflation has been a wild roller coaster of a ride, and so, this graph gives you a bit of an idea about what we're trying to, the environment within which we are trying to project the future. And so, how has that actually impacted the revenues to the Save Our Indian River Lagoon program? And so, back in 2020, we actually had a short decrease in our revenue collections, but all the other years have been increases with quite a wide range. And so then, how do you project the future? This graph shows you a comparison of blue is what our projections were each year in the plan update, and orange is what the actuals were. So despite that crazy roller coaster, we've really done, I think, exceedingly well in our projections, and most of the time collections have been higher than projections. That has not been true for the last 2 years, but really close. So this was in your December packet. You didn't meet, so we didn't get to talk about it, but our final revenue collections for the fiscal year of 2024, that top line there, we were at 99.4% collected. So yes, there was a shortfall, but in the big scheme of things, it was quite close. And so then going forward for 2025 and 26, our country had been on a path trying to get inflation down to roughly 2%, and do that without throwing us into a recession. We've been coming down towards 2%, but not as quickly as everybody wanted. And so for 2025 and 2026, the draft 2025 plan is based on projecting increased revenue collection of 2.4%. We're somewhere around 3, and we're trying to get to 2, and so 2.4 is what the plan is based on. And when you do that and you add up the 10 years, you get a new revenue projection that is almost identical to what it was in the 2024 plan update. So $20,000 more in collections based on actuals for fiscal year 2024 and projections, revised projections for 25 and 26. So switching gears from revenue estimates to construction cost estimates. So these are national statistics for the red line is residential construction, the green line is non-building infrastructure, so not vertical infrastructure. This includes underground stuff like sewer, like what we're doing, and then non-residential, the blue non-residential, this is commercial, industrial, other sorts of development. And so you see that's also a dynamic situation that is challenging to predict, and it doesn't match the pattern of inflation that we saw in the other. There's a lag here between this and the revenue projections. So here I took those U.S. analytics data and graphed that through time on the blue line, and then compared that with the orange line, graphed what is in the 2024 plan. And so you see, especially in 2022, the orange line starts lagging beneath the blue line. So we projected 12% inflation in construction costs, and the actuals were 17%. So we fell behind, and as a committee, you have seen more and more requests for contingency because the costs that were allocated for projects wasn't keeping up with the inflation of construction costs that were out there. So in the 2025 plan, we've sought to adjust that to go back to projects that had funding approved back in 2022 and hadn't been completed yet, and inflate them to 17% for 2022 instead of 12%, and then adjust current and future years to match the latest projection. So all of that is incorporated into the plan that Marcy will be presenting to you in a moment. And so one last slide for me. This just shows you that adjustment, right? What were the analytics for the U.S. in blue versus what's in the 2024 adopted plan in gray versus what's orange, what's proposed in the 2025 plan. So you see, especially 2022, making that big adjustment, and then some smaller adjustments in the out years to match what we believe the future will hold. Any questions about that before I turn it over to Marcy?
I mean, I have
comments?
questions, obviously a concern. Whenever your projected revenue is below what your cost is going to be, and by a full point, that's, but I don't know if we should have that discussion now or wait for Marcy to come in and look at it as a holistic, looking at the whole plan. I mean, we've increased the inflation numbers, the cost numbers, up to try to match what's going to happen, right?
Right. So the idea was to take the projects that have been moving forward through
Right.
design, through permitting, awarded construction, and make sure there's enough money to get those done,
Yes,
right? And to your point, if we're not collecting as much as the increase in cost, we can't do as many projects as we had planned. And so we have cut stormwater projects that hadn't proceeded yet in order to, free up the revenue to be able to implement the projects that are
to add those
on the
additional
move.
expected costs.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, first off, Virginia, I say it all the time, amazing job on the numbers. 99.4% when your collections were 53-some million. I mean, it's amazing. So kudos to you and your staff for keeping us so tight on that.
Okay.
Give me the winning lottery numbers next week, and we'll
Yeah,
call
no,
it, and we'll call it
haven't-
even.
Haven't figured out how to do that. Yeah.
All right, so we'll go ahead and have Marcy come and present the draft.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
to see you all again. For those I haven't met, my name is Marcy Frick. I'm with Tetra Tech. I've been supporting the county since 2016 with the development of the initial plan and then in the annual updates each year. And so I'm happy to be here today to present your 2025 plan. So this table of contents should look familiar. This has been the format of the plan for several years. As you can see from the cover here, in the version you all have, we did highlight any changes, so it should be hopefully easier for you all to find them. And then I'm just going to focus on some of the bigger changes. We did make some wording edits for consistency. For some of it was changing tense of, it was coming and now it came. So I'm not going to highlight those things, but those are highlighted in the document. I'm going to go through each section, but just really quickly, so in the acknowledgements, we did update the format of the committee to reflect the new members, the new chair and vice chair. We updated any new speakers that came and presented to you all this year that haven't in the past, and then we updated the list of county staff who have been working on the plan. And then the executive summary, we've made updates just to reflect the information in the 2025 update. And then I will go through the main edits in the other sections. So starting with the first three sections, these are really more of the background, laying the groundwork of the plan. Section 1, there was just some minor wording changes. Really the biggest change was figure 1.1 shows the commercial fishing, and what was highlighted in the initial plan was the decline. If you can see in the new plan, we added data through 2023. It's slowly starting to come back up. So we have been every few years trying just to come back to that figure and add the latest data. Section 2, there was a comment we received. So the version you all are looking at, I think we did talk about that at the beginning, kind of from this quadrant of the room, John, Don, and Vinny did give us some comments, so that got factored in. And I think, Don, you had made the comment that figure 2.1 didn't just show the lagoons, it also showed the watersheds associated, so we modified the text just to explain the figure a little bit better. The county's been working with the St. Johns River Water Management District on some of their regional projects and refining the load reduction estimates from that. So we did update Table 2.1 to reflect the latest C54 project reductions, and those also came in later when we were tracking the reductions towards the TMDL numbers. And then we also received feedback, I think, John, that was from you, to add herbicides as one of the benefits under stormwater of some of the other pollutants that we're addressing in Table 2.2, other than just nutrients. And then Section 3 about the pollutant sources, we didn't have any major edits there. And so getting into the meat of our plan is Section 4. So this summarizes all of the projects by the different categories, starting with reduce and education. So a lot of this was just updating the latest information. We updated the little call-out box at the start of the section about the reductions from the fertilizer application. We provided some more details about the nutrient levels that are found in reclaimed water under that excess irrigation education item. There was some new information added about the citizen science stormwater pond monitoring and maintenance pilot program that was implemented this year. Updated some of the lagoon loyal information to reflect what Brendan was just showing about all of the ads and the information that's happened over the last year. And then we added information about the Restore Our Shores program under that oyster gardening program section. Moving on to wastewater. We, Table 4.9 had the facility concentrations. Staff look at that every year, so there were a couple that were updated with some of the latest information. And then the table that has all of the recommended projects, that was updated to add the two projects that you all recommended during your December meeting for the wastewater facilities. We had no updates under the, November, sorry. Yes, not December. Y'all didn't meet in December. The spray field and rapid infiltration basins, there were no changes. Under the package plant connections, the Indian River Shores Trailer Park project was withdrawn. And then the sewer laterals rehab, there were some minor updates to text. And then in the table that summarized all the projects, we had split out in other places last year and realized we hadn't here the repair and replacement project from the smoke testing project. So it was just to make that consistent with some other sections. Going into the septic systems section, we provided updates. There was an update to the ARC inlet tool that's used to estimate the septic system load. So the updated information from that 2024 effort was included. We added the new Palm Bay project that you all had recommended for the sewer not available connected phase 2, and withdrew the City of Titusville Zone H project as discussed at the meeting. The figure 4.5 that showed some of the septic to sewer projects in North IRL were updated to reflect these changes. There were some updates to the costs for the septic system upgrades, factoring in the information from some of those completed projects. Updated the septic system upgrades project table to reflect some of the dollars that have been spent. And then also revised table 422 to note the new $20,000 project cap for septic upgrades. And so I don't believe this was something that you all had seen before. So staff did have this chart to show they were plotting out kind of on a normal curve the septic system updated reported costs as of fiscal year 2024, tying into, as Virginia was just mentioning, costs for everything are going up. So as you can see, plotted on a nice little bell curve, and that 20,000 is about, at the peak of that. And so using this information, that those costs were adjusted to more accurately reflect what those septic system upgrades are costing. Moving into stormwater treatment, there's some tables up front that summarize the different types of stormwater best management practices, and in table 4.3 there were new project types added. So two that were added were managed aquatic plant systems with pond circulation, and then there was also just a line item for pond circulation where there was already a managed aquatic plant system that had been funded by the Save Our Indian River Lagoon funds. We also clarified, I believe it was last year, we added the second generation baffle box plus media filter. You all had approved some third generation baffle boxes at the last meeting. That's essentially what those are, so we put that in parentheses after that, so that terminology was in there. We withdrew 3 projects that weren't moving forward, and then added the 11 new recommended projects to table 426. And then to do that, we had to move out some of those least cost-effective basin projects, and those were moved to the unfunded appendix, because those are still projects that could move forward if there were more dollars available. And then we updated all the figures that showed the location of those stormwater treatment projects. Under the vegetation harvesting, the one new recommended project, which was the countywide vegetation, unincorporated countywide vegetation project 2, was added. And then the North and South Lakemont Ponds vegetation harvesting was withdrawn. All right, moving into the muck section, there were some introductory text edits just to provide the latest information up there. So you'll see some more highlights there. In the muck removal section, we updated all the text and tables and reduction estimates using the latest flux data that came in from the monitoring that's occurring, so that went to several tables. We did notice in putting together this PowerPoint, If you all remember, last year, we had actually moved $10 million from the Grand Canal interstitial dredging to dredging, and we accidentally reverted back to a table that did not have that. So it doesn't change any of the totals, it just changes the split between muck and interstitial. So in the version that goes to the county commission, we'll make sure that's adjusted with any other edits that are made today. So I just want to point that out. I did fix the pie chart later in the PowerPoint, so you'll just see that 10 million shift there. In the treatment of muck interstitial water, we added some language about when to include those interstitial projects in the bids, and there were some discussions both here at the committee meetings as well as the board that started with the O'Galley project, allowing prioritization for areas that had the highest nutrient flux to address that muck. And then the board also allowed the trust funds to be used to just bid the dredging first without interstitial. And then if there were sufficient funding or additional funding become available to add that interstitial. So that new language was added in there about how to handle those project bids. And then the latest muck data was also used to update those interstitial water treatment benefits in Table 432. There were no changes to the information in the spoil management areas. There was some update in the surface water remediation system section about the innovative technology grant that the county received in 2023 to collaborate with Hydro Bioscience to test their ultrasonic transducer to look at mitigating those harmful algal blooms in canals near Sykes Creek. And then in the enhanced circulation section, updated text about University of Central Florida receiving funding for the inflow pilot study to build on what FIT had been working on, and then providing some information about the ongoing State Road 528 widening feasibility study. All right, moving on to Restore. There was also some updates in kind of that introductory paragraph to the section, so you'll see those edits. In the Oyster, we updated that call-out box information as well. We made some updates to the county oyster bar projects to reduce those extent to cover some of the new recommended projects as for both oysters and clams. So you'll see a reduction in those more generic projects. And then under planting shorelines, we talked about added new text about the new living shoreline site selection and design decision support tool. The clam restoration section talked about, provided the latest updates from the clam restoration project and added your 2 new recommended projects. And then the seagrass planting section talked about updates on the ongoing efforts to get funding for those seagrass planting tests. Responding to new information, the change in 441 was just an update to the structure of the Citizen Oversight Committee and the timing of the next round of the time. I think we're coming to the end of, is it the 3rd or 4th round of committee members, and just talking about that, and then the new seats that are being added. And then in the cost share section, we just updated Table 442 to reflect the latest cost share information that went out to folks over the summer who were submitting projects. Going into the respond project changes, so we updated those introductory tables, the 4-43 and 4-44. So the first one shows the funds that were spent so far on completed projects, and the second one shows the dollars spent on the underway construction projects. We did update all the figures with completed projects, and there's one here on the slide as the example. The Lagoon Loyal information was updated to reflect all of the new updates on the clicks and the participation through that. Updated the latest information in measuring performance for the groundwater data and put in that new trend. Provided updated costs for both the septic to sewer and septic system upgrades just based on the dollars spent to date on each of those. Still continuing, so this is the big section that has all the updates by topic. So under the stormwater treatment, the latest performance updates were added for denitrification project monitoring using the Scottsmore 1, and then Basin 26, and then also the Johnson Junior High denitrification media chamber mod. Although this wasn't funded by the tax fund, it did provide good information about how those projects are functioning. Under the AECOM algal harvesting pilot project, just the updates on those results from that test were in there. The latest results and costs for muck removal, showing the turbidity values from before, during, and after dredging projects was included. We added a couple new sections, one on air quality monitoring at the Grand Canal Dredge Material Management Area. We did make some edits to this based on comments from the committee, just to present the information a little more clearly, because it is a confusing topic. So you'll see some changes from the version you all received in December. And then there's also a new section on evaluating sand capping for sediment nutrient reduction. In the general performance of interstitial water treatment, we updated some of the estimates and the figure for the Grand Canal results. We updated the bottom water dissolved oxygen monitoring network to include the latest data from FIT. In the oyster restoration and planted shoreline section, we updated the study findings and the figures for the recruitment and the density at the different sites, as well as some new information on testing of different materials. For the remote sensing of harmful algal blooms, updated information on the funding that was received to help extend the monitoring to 2023 to correspond with that AECOM pilot project, and then providing the link to the web app that has the latest data. And then the last section here with research needs, we had no updates. Moving into section 5, going into the project funding. So Virginia talked quite a bit about all the changes to inflation, so I won't belabor that, but the plan does include the adjustments that Virginia was mentioning to better capture the inflation in each of the years, and that's then reflected in the later tables on those projects. The revenue projection was updated with the latest projections that Virginia showed, which is about $20,000 more than the 2024 plan. And then the last section, we updated the pie chart shown here on the table. These percents of allocations of what went to reduce, remove, restore, and respond projects match what's in the 2024 plan, so the relative parts of the pie did not change. And then we have that one page that has the pie charts by year, so we added the 2025 update to that. This is the pie chart I mentioned that I did modify, so it's going to look slightly different, the 2025 plan one, from what's in your document, just in that gray area to reflect that 10 million that we accidentally undid from last year. But as you can see overall, the change we've been making over time to the original plan had a lot of funding for the reduce in water projects, and we've moved more towards the remove and the orange, a lot of that wastewater project, to try to get those benefits to the lagoon. So the last section is the summary of the plan. The tables 6.1 through 6.6 compare the project reductions from the latest version of the plan to the county's locally proposed total maximum daily load, so those were all updated. Table 6.7 compares the in-water body reductions to what's needed, so the updates from the muck, oysters, and clams were updated in that table. We have then several tables summarizing costs. So table 6.8 has the project reductions with for total nitrogen, total phosphorus, and the approved costs from the plan. And then last year we added that table 6.9 that has the cost effectiveness 3 ways. So the first column is that approved. When you all get that information, what's additionally approved in the plan. The next column shows any updates based on amendments. So that includes what we did last year where we're actually building that inflation up to 5 years into the project costs, plus any contingency funds that were approved to help meet any project gaps. And then the last way we show that is the total cost of the project. So this is not only the tax fund, but any grants and local match from the owner. So all that was updated. And then we also updated everyone's favorite table, the rainbow table, that with the latest project costs. And again, last year we shifted to showing in the little, in each cell, the project costs that include that inflation. So this is just a quick overview to compare what happened, the updates between the 2024 to 2025 plans. So overall, you can see that $20,000 increase that Virginia talked about. And you can see some of the bigger changes. So the wastewater, we did have some new projects that were added. And then there was also that change in inflation for some of the projects that had been previously added and not completed. There's a big reduction in stormwater. This comes from two different things. So one, the projects that were moved to unfunded to fund the new projects had been in there for a while. So they had 5 years of inflation on them. So by moving those out, we saved some money there. And then also we used some of that stormwater funding to cover like wastewater and some of these other buckets. The muck in the interstitial, that increase is due to that change in inflation for the older projects that hadn't been completed, since these are some bigger dollar projects. Restoration had a slight decrease. That was mostly due to the fact that we did take those general county projects and took funding out of that for the new projects. So again, those had the higher inflation. And then the contingency overall, that big decrease is just for projects that we're wrapping up or don't need contingency moving forward. So overall, very similar, just those minor changes to work in the new projects. And then we have all of the appendices in the back with some additional information. So in the first appendix has all the funding. So we did make a few updates to talk about the $75 million from the legislature that was received this year or 2024 for the Indian River Lagoon Water Quality Improvement Grants. The Section 319 funding has been in there, but we updated that to also note that it provides funding for homeowners to connect to sewer. And then there's been a line item in there for the Water Management District funding, but a note was added that in the last few years, it's really been directed more towards water supply, not water quality. Appendix B has the references. All the new references are highlighted. I'd like to thank Don, who spent quite a bit of time making sure those were all consistent, and there was a lot of new ones, so thank you for that. In Appendix C, we talk about seagrass, and there's the two figures, one that shows the seagrass coverage, and that was updated with the latest data through 2024, and the second one shows the chlorophyll trends in comparison to the seagrass, and those were updated through 2024 as well. The unfunded projects, so these are all of the ones that if we had unlimited dollars, we would love to be doing. So this includes those stormwater projects we had to move out. We also put a note at the beginning. A lot of these are older projects that were in the original 2016 plan. We have not updated the costs. And as Virginia mentioned, costs have changed quite a bit, so we did want to note that those are getting older. Appendix E is all the projects that were withdrawn because they're not able to move forward, and so that reflects the about 10 or so that were withdrawn this year. Appendix F has the loading estimates from stormwater basins that are on federal land, so we added this appendix last year. These are still have some feasible options. It's just areas that the county doesn't have control over, and so we did in the introductory text, the only thing that changed in this appendix was we noted the number of basins. And then Appendix G is that long description of the figures earlier. So those were updated for any new figures or figures that were modified. And with that, those are the major updates, and we'll take your questions and comments.
Okay, does any questions or comments from the committee? Dr. Windsor?
I think you all have done a great job.
That's
And
pretty,
thank you very much for all the hard work.
Thank you. You want me to put the resolution up for discussion? Okay.
All right, so with no questions or comments, I know we do have a,
I did want to say thank you as well.
thank you, Stephanie.
It was an excellent presentation.
Thank you. Okay, So with the updated plan presented to us, we would need a motion to go ahead and approve the proposed plan update and send it to the county commission for their consideration and adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion from the committee? Okay, any public comment on the motion on the floor? All right, with none, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for that Athenian task. Yes, Dr. Windsor?
When do you anticipate this going to the,
I think February 11th?
Yeah, we may be able to make the February 11th. It has to post for at least 15 days between when you make your recommendation and when it comes before the county commission. So it's, if there are no additional changes, Brandon should be able to coordinate getting that posted through our IT department quickly. So, yeah, February 11th seems doable.
Okay, great. All right, so with that, thank you, everybody. We'll move on to the next item, which is the City of Cocoa Septic to Sewer Zones J and K funding request. Mr. Stockton, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
How are you?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
At the November 12th meeting of the City Council meeting, the City Council directed me to come before you and ask that you forward a commitment to fund any potential cost overrun for the City of Cocoa's J and K septic to sewer projects. And so I'm here to make that request, and hopefully we'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Okay, any questions? Dr. Windsor?
I was wondering if, for the benefit of some of the folks on the board who haven't been involved in this process for the entire duration, if we could get a brief summary of where we've been with this project in the past?
Sure.
And, you know, why we're at this point right now.
Virginia, did you want to, Stockton, what year did you start at the city of Cocoa?
Can I interrupt?
Lorraine,
Only
please.
because I was just informed that I need to fill out a form in order to be part of the discussion, right?
Okay,
So could we take a short break?
sure. We'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break
Okay.
here, and
Okay, great.
we'll come right back. All right, let's go ahead and get together,
Yeah.
get everybody seated down. Laura Lee, if we could start the meeting again, and Bobby? Yeah, I will. Yeah, of course, of course. Okay, so real quick, Lorraine, you want to just extrapolate on what that was?
Okay. Well, I was informed by an attorney that in order to participate in the discussion, that I would need to explain any conflict. So my conflict is as one of the property owners that is at question in Cocoa. And I actually did go to the Ethics Commission to get a ruling on whether or not I could vote. And they determined that I could not vote on that issue because I could potentially have a special gain or a special loss. So just to let you know, that's what the conflict is.
Okay, great. So you declared the conflict, and then you
Yes.
filled out the form at the meeting.
You evidently have to do that before you speak, so
Correct.
thank you.
Yes,
for
we
your
learned,
indulgence.
we learned that a couple years ago. So, all right, glad we're on top of that. Thank you. So you can partake in the discussion, but you can't vote. Is that correct?
I can't vote, yes.
Okay.
Which means Charles?
Pardon me?
So then Charles, the alternate,
so
it will be
Charles
the
will be
one
my
then that will be voting on that topic. Okay, great. Oh, yeah, of course. And so Terry, do you have a history just on the project?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is about the Cocoa Zones J and K Septic to Sewer project. This was in the original 2016 project plan. And then in 2021, the city submitted an application to combine those two zones into one project. That was approved for $5.622 million. And then after further investigation, it was revised down to $5.467 million. In September 2022, the city completed design on that project and estimated the cost to be just over $12 million and requested a contingency funding increase of $545,343, and with the intent to apply for 50/50 match with a DEP grant or another funding agency. The committee recommended approval of that use of contingency funds in October. It went to the Board of County Commissioners, and they approved it with the caveat that the city had 24 months to secure that additional funding. That ran out in October of this year, so that contingency request was removed from the project plan, the 2025 project plan. So in 2024, we added the inflation to all of the projects, so that increased the cost share eligibility up to $7.261 million. And so as I mentioned, the inflation was, or the original contingency request was removed, and, sorry, this one has a long history. The city manager wrote to us asking for this request, writing on behalf of the City of Cocoa Council to request Brevard County's commitment to funding any potential cost overruns for the Cocoa J&K project. This request follows directives issued by the council's regular meeting on November 12th, 2024. Please, and he asked for this item to be placed on the agenda. So next on here, I have the contingency request per the 2024 approved plan. So this request is estimated to amount to $5.3 million in additional funds, plus any potential cost overruns that could incur, so.
Okay. Dr. Windsor? Is that-
I'm not sure, I'm going to leave it to the other folks who, I've been here throughout this process, so but there are some other folks who haven't been here, so maybe they have questions and maybe.
So is there any other questions in the committee? I have one, but.
I've got another question, if nobody needs clarification, I got a question for the.
Please.
I have you have a quote here in this agenda item, and it says, you're asking for Brevard County's commitment to fund any potential cost overrun. And I'm not a lawyer or anything, but that sounds like if somebody mismanages the project and you encounter a cost overrun, we're on the hook for whatever it is if we decide to approve this. And so that's why I have some concerns about this item. And I know that you're here representing the city. So that's a concern for me. I'm also concerned about this dragging on. I mean, we were concerned about this dragging on before, and the Brevard County Commission were the ones who put the 2-year limit on this. The 2-year limit's up, and I'm not sure how many more times you can go back and do that. So maybe you could address any potential cost overruns comment.
Yeah, I gave you, as close to I could, a quote of what was actually directed of me. And so it was simply, and that maybe shouldn't be in quotes, but it's a paraphrase, and it's the direction via the clerk's recording of the minutes to make that request there.
Okay.
So I don't think I can explain it beyond that. That is the request.
I figured it was something like that. And so if we decide to make any recommendations for this, I want to make sure that there's some notation about that going forward, that this needs to be reviewed legally or contractually or something, because I don't think there's any way in the world we can be responsible for everything.
Well, and so that kind of leads to my question. So it says the request is estimated to amount to the 5.3 million. That on top of the 7 million equals the 12 million, and that's the total cost of the project, correct? Not a 50% cost share. Okay, and so that was my question, is the projects that we have included and have ranked high have utilized, other grant funding and sources to make our dollars go further. And I was just trying to make sure that I understood the request. The request would be to fund it 100% from Sorrel funds, up to 100%.
Yeah, I think I think that's a fair sort of assessment there.
Okay.
And it is, we have an engineer's estimate. We haven't bid the project, so we don't know what that is.
For sure.
And so this is anything that is above and beyond what we would have budgeted for the project. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I do know historically, and Lorraine, as well, there was much discussion on the council about this project, and there was some concern with the residents, with the cost, the ongoing costs of connecting. So I do appreciate the city and you guys continuing to discuss this to try to work this, because I think everyone on the Oversight Committee would agree that this is an important project. Don?
Yeah, I just was wondering myself when I read it, why the city hasn't gone after a grant funding to get that matching, at least towards matching, at least.
Yeah, I'm the manager, so I'll answer what has been directed of me. So I have not been directed to go after that, and so the why is simply a matter of policy for the council.
But I guess that goes to, is this realistic?
This being the project or
Yeah.
the request?
In general, is it realistic? It doesn't sound like the city has really bought into the whole process.
Well, as the chair has said, I've been there 4 years. I think the item has come up in my tenure maybe 6 times. So they've talked about it a number of times there, and again, I can't answer that question, sir. They've talked about it. This was the latest direction to me.
Okay. Barbara?
I just wanted to state, because I'm not familiar with the project, haven't been here for it, but just the wording plus any potential cost overruns should be eliminated.
Well, and so
Because that's a vulnerable situation and it's so open-ended. I don't think any attorney would approve that.
Yeah, and if I could go back and again, I think that at this point, I would recommend rejecting this, and I would make a motion to that effect unless there are a lot of other questions about this.
And I was going to say, our motion could be some guidance back to the city. As far as a communication, our motion could be to the commission to then communicate back to the city, or advise. So we don't have to bind ourselves to the request at hand. Just wanted to throw that out there, but I hear what you're saying, Dr. Windsor.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, making recommendations back, but I think that we need to, I think we should go ahead and say something, in a firm fashion now. Let everybody know where we are, let the board, let the new county commissioners know where we are. They may be taking a significant lead from us, in this issue. And so I think that I would recommend rejecting this request and use as a specific item the lack of any matching funds to make this project work.
Yeah, that was the crutch for me. And maybe to help the city, we can, request that they do look for some matching funds, as I would say that's the majority of.
And there's no guarantee that this money's going to, once we pull it, that's going to be it.
The funds
Yeah.
for some period of time.
Okay, so is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that we remove this, or we reject this request for additional funds, or for the project.
Okay, and did you want to include that?
We could make the recommendation with that make the explanation for that as being that the lack of matching funds. And I don't think, I'm not sure we should be sending recommendations to city councils.
Correct.
Yeah.
I agree. I shouldn't say correct, I agree.
But yeah, this is all to the county commission, yeah.
Right. Okay, is there any other discussion? We have a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Kurt.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Smith.
I would suggest that, from my perspective, this would be a decision that should be made by the county commission itself. We can make a recommendation, surely, one way or the other, but I think the commission would be the appropriate place to make this request.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right. So is there any further discussion on the committee?
Just going to make one comment. And it's
Can you
actually-
please restate the motion?
Yes, Stephanie. Well, Lorraine's going to make a comment, and then we'll restate it.
I just didn't want the opportunity to pass because you mentioned earlier that the primary concern of citizens were the ongoing costs. And you should also be aware that, there are numerous citizens that have really been pushing this, and that's why it continues to come back to the council. It's largely become a political ball at this point. And so even though I think probably the ask feels a bit, uninformed, to say the least, there's a certain delay that's going on with this. So we're pushing it down the road. Hopefully the city will make the right decision, but that's part of what's going on here.
Okay. Thank you. And so, Stephanie, the motion on the floor,
Well, yeah,
Charles.
I was going to say, the only thing that makes me pause is, this is an important project. I mean, I don't know what the reduction would be without, looking at the project. And now that Lorraine said there's a citizen component to that, and we're the Citizens Oversight Committee to hopefully represent that. And I agree, and I'll support the motion that Dr. Windsor made, but it does seem something that, we're being asked to provide some assistance. It's, I know we don't want to make too much of a recommendation, maybe a generic one, but it is an important project. And I know there's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of challenges to this one in particular. But, we sometimes got to overcome those challenges if we're going to meet our goals.
Okay. And so, Dr. Windsor, I will repeat your motion just to make sure. Stephanie, the motion on the floor is to reject the request.
How about recommend to the Board of County?
Recommend to the Board of County Commission that the request be rejected with the explanation that the lack of matching funds was a big concern.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Charles, I agree with you, and I think at our last meeting, we discussed a septic to sewer that was on Coquina, right, in Merritt Island, and there were a few number which increased the amount, the cost. So I agree. I think it's a very important project, and Stockton, I think the city would agree on the importance. I think the crutch is how do we get there? And so, okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further committee discussion? All right, is there any public comment? Please, come on up and state your name and your address.
Hi. My name is Linda Dolphin. I live at 2100 North Indian River Drive, and I have been the person trying to pursue this project with all our residents, trying our best to move this project along. And it appears that, in my opinion, it's continually what Lorraine mentioned. Instead of making a decision when we feel like we've got the right council members there, they'll vote for it. Then we ask for more money that we really don't need because these matching funds are available. We also could apply for loans through the revolving loans for the state if we run into this huge cost overrun. What I got from the last meeting was that, what do we do if there's cost overruns? Well, that's something that we approach when and if there are cost overruns. And that stopped the last meeting when we thought we had the 3 council vote. So obviously, this was a request that made 0 sense at the time that it was made by one of the council members, because nobody can be expected to be responsible for any overrun that might occur. So thank you very much for your consideration for this today, and I hope our council will do the right thing and at least get this project out to bid, which would tell us everything that we need to know. But we've been working on it, as you know, forever. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any further public comment? All right, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, was that an opposition?
Sounds like an
Okay, great.
So that was just me saying aye.
All right. Thank you, Stockton. Thank you very
Mr.
much for
Chair.
bringing the
Good to
item.
see you.
All righty. So that is the end of the agenda. We'll go into the general public comments, and I have one card from Mr. Glass.
I'm Jim Glass. I am the retiring director, conservation director for the Florida Fly Fishing Association. With me here today, Bill Ledward, who is taking over. And I just want to take this opportunity to make some suggestions to the committee. And if I run over a little bit, would let me talk a little longer? Okay. My daughter lives on a canal in Tortoise Island. And dredge came down that canal. It's million-dollar homes with million-dollar yachts behind their houses. And the thing I want to talk about is the need to reprogram another 10 years for the Lagoon tax. And what scares me is if the general public, low-income and middle-income people find out you're spending money dredging muck on canals that are owned by these millionaires with these expensive yachts, I'm afraid this thing is dead on arrival. So I would suggest that you reconsider the priorities of what you're dredging muck on. I certainly agree it needs to be dredged in the lagoon and the estuaries that dump into the lagoon. And I don't know whether Sunnyland, are you still planning to dredge mucks in Sunnyland?
The project is still on the books.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the one thing I wanted to say, that you need to think about, and I think this committee, I don't know whether you're going to be involved with the extension of the 10-year plan. Certainly the county commission is going to listen to you, and I would think you'd provide input. So I would say that in the other thing I mentioned, this was a couple of 3 months ago, you had a consultant here that did some water quality testing after you fixed, removed some septic tanks in an area, and also repaired some sewer problems. And she showed that the effect of those projects, how much the water quality improved in the lagoon. At that time, I asked you, why don't you do the same thing with muck? Why don't you take and do some water quality testing out in the middle of the Banana River where you have dredged, I don't know how much money is spent in the area there, $25 million, something like that, and show us that this muck dredging is an effective reduction in water quality like the sewer projects and the septic tank projects did in her study. The other thing is, we're going to be faced with renewing this plan, and I think there are something like 50-some thousand septic tanks under a Florida mandate that they have to be connected to either a sewer plant or upgraded, and the cost to do that is in the billions. And so it's essential that we spend our money on removing those septic tanks. And whether this new plan addresses that, I hope it will, because it'll certainly help in the long run. So anyway, I appreciate all of your work you guys do here, and I hope you'll continue to be such an influence on the county commission. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service. Virginia, just real quick, do we have, and I can't remember, do we have monitoring for the muck areas? I mean, just as an example, when we did breeze swept, like back in the beginning of the plan, and to see that huge.
You presented data on that.
Right, so the Florida Tech team looked at the impacts downstream of the Turkey Creek dredging and the O'Galley River dredging, and while you can't see a nutrient signal because it's a giant bathtub and it's a complex system and, you know, there's a lot going on, you can see a turbidity reduction. So you see water clarity improvements for miles radius around each of those projects. Dr. Austin Fox is also currently measuring the oxygen level, change dissolved oxygen levels at the water muck interface in the Sykes Creek dredging project area. And under contract with the Indian River Lagoon program, he's doing that in other areas of the lagoon. So we will also have that data set to be able to measure the success and the benefit of muck dredging projects. And I'll also say that the Grand Canal project, that canal dredging, was initially funded by legislative funds and sort of inherited by the Lagoon program. The project areas that were added with Lagoon, put in the plan that weren't inherited from projects that had already begun, they are almost all open water lagoon projects, with the exception of additions that have been requested by the community, such as Sunnyland. But the projects the committee has recommended have been those open water projects.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I think that Austin Fox one, that's kind of where I was going, that, he always talks about it's about the worms or it's about the soil. And so if we could actually get some data on the soil content, the ground content, I think that, along with the turbidity, would paint a beautiful picture.
Yeah, Dr. Kevin Johnson has also been doing work with us on the benthic infauna in and around the Sykes Creek dredging.
That's the term. I forgot it. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, so we should have that report in a few months, and we'll be able to bring those results to the committee.
Great. Don, and then Barbara? Don and Jennifer.
Yeah, and I'd just like to remind you that appendix, I forget which one it is, but it's the unfunded projects. Thank you.
D, Appendix D.
In the plan, and so you really need to look at those and see how many projects and where they are that are yet to be funded. If we get future funding. And it's mind-boggling. So take a look at that appendix, and it'll give you an idea of where the future lies for the program.
Barbara?
Okay, I just have two comments, and one is about the gentleman who just spoke. Almost any property that borders the water canals is $1 million now. I mean, the market value has just skyrocketed on the majority of the county properties that border the water. And right across from Tortoise Island are some homes that were built in the 50s and 60s, very small homes, and they're benefiting from everything. As a person who's lived on the water for many years and bought when it was less expensive, I can tell you that my observation recently, and then seeing hundreds of projects that we're doing, my observation is we have more fishermen out there than I've ever seen. We have more birds feeding on the fish than I've ever seen. And we have so many kids coming from all over on these e-bikes, fishing all over the river. It's been spectacular. So I think you've done just a tremendous job in what you've taken for these tax monies and spent it in the right way. So whatever you're doing an incredible job. Thank you.
Dr. Aaron Adams has just published a paper with Dr. Randy Parkinson, some other co-authors, that talked to fishermen and documented the patterns in where they were catching fish and fishing effort over the last 4 decades, and then looking at fishing license data and how many commercial fishing licenses. There were over 5,000 commercial fishing licenses 3 or 4 decades ago, and how much that's decreased. And that data also shows the uptick that you just mentioned. Just in the last few years, those license numbers are increasing, and the fishermen are beginning to report more fish. So it's a really interesting study based on interviews of people who have been fishing in this community for 3 to 4 decades.
Just another comment about the fishermen, and so many of them are young. I mean, they're really kids. And they're catching sharks and they're catching all this. And I'll often comment, what do you do when you catch a fish that you don't want to keep and you're not going to eat? And they always say, oh, I remove the hook and I put them back and release them. And these kids know what to do. They know the right thing. They're doing all good things. They pick up their trash on the bridge. They're just wonderful. I'm so happy to see it.
Virginia, could you share that study through an email
Thank you, Vinny.
to the committee? Yeah, contact Bobby. Thank you. Eric, yes.
Yeah, I was under the impression that some of the concerns regarding dredging and whatever was coming from the belief that we were doing it for navigational purposes or something like that, and that it wasn't, that was why the rich people wanted it. And my understanding is that all the dredging that we've done does not include that, and I don't know if that helps anybody's perspective at all.
I was just going to say, it's part of the perception people have, and, perception becomes their reality, and they see a canal being dredged or, out in the lagoon. I don't think they differentiate, and so I think Mr. Glass's comments are right on that, it's, people think something that isn't true, but to change their mind, it takes a lot of education.
All right.
I was just going to comment that I'm reminded of when we started this whole process. We said that although I'm very sensitive to where we have, wealthy homeowners benefiting, but we had a patient in the emergency room. And so the idea was that we attack these projects based on the objective data, where the problems really were to bring the patient back. And so that's one of the reasons that we have not, looked at socioeconomic groups and benefits. We're more concerned with bringing back the health of the patient.
Thank you.
May I make another comment?
Yes, sir.
I attended a meeting of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Service a couple of years ago, and it had to deal with the curtailment of being able to keep redfish in the lagoon. The redfish population declined significantly, so that now the lagoon is catch and release only. Also, there were commercial fishermen at this meeting, and they talked about their catch of trout, how much it had declined from what it was formerly. So the lagoon is still impacted by all the pollution that's in the lagoon now. And I just think that, comments about the water quality in the river and whether the dredging affects it, I agree that it does. But the point I made about the expensive homes, I really think that if the public realizes that we're dredging muck under these expensive homes and they're having a hard time with their buying groceries and whatever, it isn't going to pass. That's my concern, and we need to get that sales tax approved so they can do another 10 years.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bill? Mr. Bill?
Jim.
Stu.
Jim
Oh,
Glass?
sorry,
Sir,
Jim.
Mr. Glass?
Sorry, Jim.
Yeah.
Jim, while you were up there, I was gonna.
Yes.
How much youth do you have in your?
Beg pardon?
How many youth do you have in your fly fishing group?
Youth?
Yeah.
We just had a clinic we did for the,
Sir, could you talk to the microphone?
yeah, we had, how
Mr.
many
Glass,
kids
just
came
for-
to that thing? Was it?
We had about 30 to 35 children show up, and we
Yeah.
had stages where we taught them how to fish.
Yeah, it was really
Both
great.
fly fishing, and we also had Salt Strong there, another group.
Yeah.
And the kids were wonderful.
Yeah.
They caught fish. We caught a little fish before they came, so we could give them species and
Yeah.
explain to them all of it.
Yeah.
And then they went out and on their own and caught, and they were so happy. And we have pictures on our website of it.
I was
You
going to
can
ask, do you
find
have
it.
a website? Could you repeat
Yes.
that? Could you say the name?
Fly Fishers, Florida Fly Fishing Association.
Yeah.
.com?
We have 85 members and 1,500 followers on our Facebook page.
members.
Okay, Facebook.
And the other thing, I was surprised how many girls there were there. I mean, there were
Yes.
more girls than boys at this. It was really amazing. Yeah.
We have a famous, a female fisher woman here in our clutches, Laura Lee anyway, so
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
she'll outcatch anybody. All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Is Craig here? I have another card for Craig, but I don't, oh, he's sitting right behind the booth.
I was hiding.
Yeah,
Craig Wallace, Satellite Beach. I wanted, this is really good conversation, by the way, and related to what I wanted to speak about. So the County Commission, or at least the chair of the County Commission, has requested public workshops on the subject of getting public input on what do you want to see going forward? Do you want to continue the tax, but if you do, then what do you want the tax to pay for? So exactly what we're discussing here tonight. We need to get more public input, and in the process of getting public input, we'll be educating the public. So those two things go hand in hand, and a lot of the work that Brandon spoke of this morning, that's a huge part of making sure we get the public input. But but I did want to get this group's opinions or thoughts in terms of how might we do these public workshops. He kind of threw it out there as, okay, we need to get public input, so let's do workshops. I don't know whether that's the right format, or whatever to do. So I don't have all the answers, but I know a lot of you, you're representing the public in a way. So I would definitely like to have your input on how we do this process, and that we accomplish what we're setting out to do. So it doesn't have to be right now, but it'd be a good topic to bring up. So that's my initial thoughts.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So I do want to have, no, thank you, Craig. I was going to say, I do want to have that discussion. I had a thought about that about next month. But before we do that, since we're on the topic of retiring, I think we've got another special person in the back of the room, maybe the back corner, who might be retiring at the end of the month after giving this county many, many years of service. And I'd like to call him up to the podium up here if he'd like to make some comments. He's been a familiar face in these meetings, and I personally am so thankful for his service to the county. To have somebody who knows the history and the future is quite special, right?
I don't know what the lotto numbers
Can you say your name, sir? Can you say your name, sir?
I'm John Denninghoff. I'm one of the assistant county managers. Well, thank you for asking me to come up. Yes, it's true. The end of this month will complete my career with the county, and I do intend to spend more time on the lagoon than I have in recent years. I can tell you that I sometimes expound about and encourage and relate to some of the county sorrel staff my recollections from my youth in the lagoon. And I tell stories, and I know that they sound like they couldn't possibly be true about how wonderful it was. I know somebody else in the room had those same experiences. And being able to snorkel in the lagoon and see large, horse fish, and catch crabs with a dip net. Out on the grass and much more. And so this has been one of the things which, for my role for sorrel, has been mostly in the background or to provide help and support when needed, advice when that was needed as well. But I want to tell you, you've got a staff that is first rate, and I'm very, very proud of them. And while I myself come from a background of recreationally in the lagoon and a big and strong interest in it, I also have a lot of construction experience, dredging experience, stormwater retention areas, ditches, I mean, you name it, and and that has, I think, helped to some degree in my role. Y'all are in good hands with this staff, and I have no doubt about that. I will say, speaking of dredging, I've fished many of the locations where our dredging projects have been, and I can assure you that not just my experience, but I often use fishing guides just to, I don't want to have to work at it too much anymore. I climb in the boat and let's go. And and I talk to them about what's going on and what's happening out there in the lagoon, and I can assure you that it's not just me that's saying and noticing that that things are improving and dramatically, and in particular in the vicinity where we have seen the dredging projects. And to my surprise, and I'm happy about it, in the areas where we've done septic to sewer projects. The debris swept area is an example. I can tell you as a kid, the fishing out there was fantastic. And it went away a long time ago, and it has rebounded nicely. And don't want to give away too many fishing spots, but but I can tell you, if you want to go fishing, go find where one of these dredging projects has been, and you'll find that it's dramatically improved. Anyway, so my time for that in influence and effect and opportunity, or whatever you want to call it, is the window is closing. It's an exciting thing, and I am going to be anxious to watch and see how it evolves and continues to improve. Y'all are doing a great work, and it's a very pleasing thing to see. It's not anywhere near as good as it was. No, I can't say that, but I can tell you that I do see large groups of horseshoe crabs. I do see more blue crabs out on the water than I used to see for a long time, and we're starting to catch. I routinely catch a lot of trout now, and a fair number of redfish, and it's just exciting to sort of see. And so keep up the good work for you individually as the volunteers, and for the staff over here. Y'all are doing fantastic. I couldn't be more proud. And that's all I wanted to say, and keep it all up. So, thank you. Y'all.
Thank you very much. All right. Any other general public comments? All right. So let's go ahead and move to the final comments by chair and committee members. And real quick on Craig's point. And so we normally don't have a meeting in February unless the county commission would like us to look further at the project plan. Since some of us who have been on this committee for 8 years, the long timers, it would be our last meeting. I didn't know if there was interest in having that February meeting, regardless of whether the commission approves or would like us to look further on the plan. And so we'll have a February meeting and possibly kind of, light agenda, look at, what we feel as committee members maybe would be beneficial going forward for the project plan. Heather, do you see a legal problem with committee members here discussing what they think might be in the next rendition?
Not if you're still a member, just discussion, sure.
When you say the next rendition, are you talking about the reauthorization of the tax?
Anything going forward. It could be advice for the new committee members, which, by the way, I didn't get a chance to thank or congratulate Commissioner Smith and Kimberly and Dick and Nick for getting on the committee. So thank you, Kimberly and Commissioner Smith, who I know are on the phone. Congratulations. Lorraine, did you have something?
I was also going to, I know the next item for future topics is this new state septic rules. And I think this will have a lot of impact on our strategy going forward, or at least it could impact it. I'm wondering if we could possibly have that presentation at the same meeting, because I would definitely be in support of a February meeting.
Well, I was thinking of not having presentations. The only reason is because the new members won't be on the committee yet. It's a great, first off, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to watch that presentation whether I'm on the committee or not, because it would be a good one. But that might be something that might be best after the new members get seated. But
Okay, I was thinking more of the projects that are out there and vacillations toward moving forward and how that would impact.
which I think is very important, yeah. I'm open to suggestions. I wanted to get the committee's opinion on having a February meeting to kind of close out our tenure. Any feelings on that? Motions?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I hate to give staff more work to do because I know they're busy. So I think if it's a meeting where we come in, especially those of us who will be retiring after 8 years, and provide that, a little look back as well as a look forward would be appropriate. So I would be in support of that.
And I mean, as Craig has said, the chair has asked for this public comment. They talked about having a workshop. I feel that this table here has been a really great source of information, and so that might be beneficial to them and their staff. Don, did you have something?
He asked there's going to be a series of workshops.
They've asked for it, right, but this
Yeah.
might be an additional way to give other information. So is there a feeling on the committee about a February meeting?
I would be happy to attend.
Okay. Virginia, it is on the books, so I don't think we necessarily need a motion, because the motion would be to cancel it.
Correct.
So as long as everybody consensus is with that, we'll go ahead and I'll bring party hats for us all. Dr. Winter, did you?
I think some of the reasons we've canceled the February meeting before is the commission had not had a chance yet to review the plan. At this next meeting, they'll have reviewed the plan. We'll know whether we have feedback or not. And so, I think we need the meeting.
Okay. They might have a chance. I know we're going to try to make that February 11th. But I agree with you, Dr. Windsor. So it sounds like consensus is to have that February meeting. Okay. All right, we'll do that. Any further comments by any committee members? Those virtually, any comments? One second. Okay, Eric, did you have something?
I don't know how many folks knew Rodney Smith and were aware that he passed recently, and we attended his celebration of life here recently. I know he was a big part of a lot of the lagoon-related efforts, so if anybody didn't know, I figured I'd let them know, and that's all I had.
All right, thank you.
I'll just add, I believe he started the Hook Kids on Fishing program, just got, hundreds and hundreds of youth and their families out on the water, and it's an amazing force for this area, so he'll be truly missed.
Thank you, Eric. Laura Lee, yes.
See if I can do this without coughing. I took my grandson out with Captain Billy Rotney, who's a professional guide in Mosquito Lagoon, right after Christmas, because he wants to learn how to fish, and I thought, okay, well, I'll take him out with one of the really good ones. There was seagrass everywhere, even all the way out to 6 feet deep. There's seagrass. I mean, right now it's kind of sparse because it's wintertime and a lot of the blades have been shed, but we did not go over any area where there was not seagrass. And we caught we stopped counting at 20 redfish and giant black drum that we caught. It was just incredible. And, I can't wait for the day that the seagrass starts growing again south of the NASA Causeway.
Yeah.
Because definitely north of the Titusville Railroad Bridge, the seagrass is doing well in the northern Indian River Lagoon too. But I finally see hope, and I think, you guys have done amazing work. I want to thank Mr. Denninghoff for his dedicated work. All these decades for the county, he's going to definitely be missed, but, maybe you'd like to apply to be on this committee for something to do,
In between your trips on the lagoon. Thank you, Laura Lee. It was a wonderful story. Don?
Yeah, on that, Laura Lee, we are seeing some success at Tom Statham Park with our seagrass projects there. So we're seeing some success south of NASA Causeway.
There have been some restoration projects along Indian River Avenue in Titusville that have not done as well as Tom Statham, and I believe it's because there's a outfall at the end of St. John Street that drains a huge wetland that should be draining west into the St. John's River. But ever since the 1940s, they've been draining it into the Indian River Lagoon, and I would like to see something done about redirecting that water to the west rather than into the Indian River Lagoon, because it is that outfall is keeping restoration from occurring along a good portion of Titusville shoreline.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Laura Lee, can you remember that and bring that back next month when we talk about future projects? No.
Oh, yes.
I partially joking, but I do remember in our early meetings, we did have a presentation from St. John's as they talked about their work on diverting many of the wetlands drainage back west. So I think maybe, if we look at the next 10 years or things we'd like to see going forward, that might be another one of pinpointing those areas that still might be beneficial to reroute back west. Okay. All right. Great meeting, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a great January. Oh, February 1st, Sandpoint Park, Titusville, 100th project. Yeah, there's also a flyer here, and I guess I can read that out.
Is
It's
there
the
someone to talk to that at all? Or?
filming for the Flip My Florida Yard Show is Saturday, February.
That sounds like fun.
Oh, never mind. All right, well, we'll see everybody February 1st at Sandpoint Park in Titusville. Thank you.
Okay.
That's at the same time.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.